how can you go wrong? People, I mean, we got jazz. We got some of the smoothest jazz this side of the Mason-Dixon. And not only do we have jazz, we have some informative talk topics here. I have Miss Danny Newsom on the line. She is a former civil rights attorney, and we will be discussing her writings on Lincoln Hills Resort. I had the honor and pleasure of doing a little piece on that, a little video piece when I was a student at OCB. Ms. Newsom, are you with me?
I sure am. Hi, Sean.
How you doing? How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good.
Yes, you are, dear. And you know, I'm so eager to pick your brain as to what it is that you have learned and what you know about Lincoln Hills and its inception. Can you give us a little synopsis, I guess, for lack of a better way of saying it, a brief outline on Lincoln Hills and how it came to be?
Sure. Lincoln Hills is really important. It came to be in the 1920s, and what it was a resort, a mountain resort for black people, by black people. And as far as I know, it was the only resort of its kind west of the Mississippi River. And Lincoln Hills was developed, beginning to be developed, in the 1920s, and that was during a time of, just across the United States, incredibly overt racism directed not only against African Americans, but speaking about African Americans. And in Colorado itself, this is at a time when the Ku Klux Klan was at its heyday in Colorado. And although, you could not compare Colorado to Mississippi or Alabama or Georgia as far as the racist terroristic violence that occurred in the southern states, discrimination by custom, that was the name of the day here in Colorado. So here was a mountain resort that African Americans could and did enjoy in the Rocky Mountains, just about 30 to 40 miles west of Denver in Gilpin County.
All right. All right. Now, see, that is something that not many people, me being from Detroit and coming to Colorado and didn't know about something that rich. You know what I'm saying?
Well, do you mean about Lincoln Hills, the
yes,
KKK,
ma'am,
or all of it?
No, Lincoln Hills. I knew about KKK and I knew about the riots and, the racial divide. And I used to tell people when I was a young man growing up, when America was burning, after King was assassinated, and I remember that. But going back even further, this is something that I did not have knowledge of, as far as Lincoln Hills went.
Sure. And the reason I mentioned the KKK is a lot of folks don't realize that the KKK was so politically powerful outside of the South, and Colorado had the second, I believe it ranked second per capita in the number of KKK Klan members during the 1920s, set in the nation. So that's just important to paint this picture of segregation in Colorado.
And see, that is the key, because I understand, we had the likes of Count Basie, Duke Ellington, just to name a few, some jazz greats, some icons in music that would come to Colorado, and they weren't allowed to stay in any of the hotels inside the city area, for lack of a better way of saying it. Matter of fact, that is the only way to say it.
Well, no, absolutely. And so we're fast-forwarding to the 30s and 40s. We can add Lena Horne to that.
Right.
And absolutely. And they might have been able, who knows, they might have been able to stay in hotels or motels outside of downtown, but these were entertainers who had more than a couple of nickels to rub together, and they could afford to stay at the nice, really nice, upper crust, so to speak, hotels downtown, but they were not allowed.
Right.
They were not allowed to. And so some of them actually, and all of the ones that you mentioned, would, I don't know how they traveled there. You could take a car or the train and go to Lincoln Hills and stay in a cabin or stay in Wink's Lodge. That was a 2-story, 6-bedroom lodge, very nice, kind of the heart of Lincoln Hills. And they could stay there. In fact, Lincoln Hills, into the 30s and 40s, sometimes was called the Harlem West, just because of the numbers of black people, not just entertainers, but intellectuals, thinkers, who would go to Lincoln Hills and just sit and perform and talk, and apparently it was quite lively.
Yes, it was. But not only was it for those noted African Americans, black people, as I remember growing up back in the day. I'm not politically correct, folks. You know, black folks is black folks. That's how it's always been for me in Detroit, you know, but I'm not in the D anymore. But nonetheless.
I get it. I'm with you.
So, you know, I find it hard to be politically correct because I didn't come from that environment, you know.
You know what?
We told it like it was.
Black is fine. Black, African American, there's just something don't say. And, okay. So.
But Lincoln Hills, and Wink's Lodge was not only a place for the, you know, noted black folks, but, you know, for the everyday black man and woman to have a place to get away. Am I correct in understanding that as well?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, the developers really wanted African Americans to invest, and so you could invest. You could buy a lot in Lincoln Hills for $25 to $50.
Oh,
literally.
wow.
You could buy a lot, and so that made it accessible. And the target I think for the developers, as far as investment, were the black middle class that had some discretionary income. But if you couldn't afford to buy a lot, if that's not what, you know, you were about, you could still come up for day trips. Mm-hmm. I mean, you had people, they'd take the train, come up for day trips, and be able to be in the outdoors, a beautiful setting. You could hike, and see the beautiful Rocky Mountains. You could go swimming. You know, so although the entertainers and those with a lot of money came by Lincoln Hills, by far it was really Lincoln Hills was a place for middle class and for working class African Americans to get up to the mountains and be together and not worry about discrimination, about humiliation. Right. Absolutely. And this was at a time, if you go back to the 1920s, these mountain resorts were becoming popular across the board, not just with black people. And in fact, black people were not welcome at resorts like Estes Park in Colorado. Right. And so, absolutely. So here's a place you could come up, you could be yourself, take your shoes off, relax, and get far away from the city, leave your troubles behind.
Oh, you know, you're painting such a beautiful picture in my head. I have one of those panoramic, you know, imaginations. When you get to talking like that, I can see just what you're describing in my mind, and I see myself out there, you know, or just walking in the mountains, in the woods, being that close to nature.
Absolutely.
You know, that peace.
You're in nature.
right there in it, the lakes and whatnot that runs through the mountains, and the peace, the little rivers and whatnot.
The rivers, absolutely.
Wow.
There you go.
Fly fishing and you know, just all types of things that we're able to do there. My goodness. Now, let's fast forward a little bit. You know, because I truly enjoyed the history, and again, you painted such a beautiful picture in my mind, Danny. I'm so grateful for that.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Oh, darling, thank you. But you know, now what is going on with Wink's Lodge and Lincoln Hills at this very moment, at this day and time?
You know, that is a very interesting question. if you you can literally drive to Lincoln Hills. There's once you get close, there's actually a sign, and that'll lead your way. And what you'll see is first thing you'll see is some cabins that have are really dilapidated. They haven't been cared for. But if you keep on driving, you can come to Wink's Lodge, that 2-story, 6-bedroom place I told you about.
Right.
And that actually is lovely. It's lovely. The general public can't stay there, but Wink's Lodge, which was the heart of Lincoln Hills, is still there, and it inside and out looks very, very nice. There's a company that has set up a fly fishing, a private, essentially, fly fishing reserve on part of the property that was Lincoln Hills. And it's my understanding that they had been sponsoring outings for, I think it was for children to come up to Wink's Lodge. But as far as what I would hope would happen is that the area could, it'd take a lot of work, I'm sure, but could receive some kind of designation and funding, historical designation and funding, because historically its role in Colorado and in the United States is very important. As I said,
right.
During a time of fierce segregation and discrimination, it was the only a mountain resort for African Americans west of the Mississippi, the only. And that is important. It's important to preserve. It's important to preserve that past so people understand it. And I would love for it to have a larger role in the present too. It's a beautiful setting. I'm just not sure what's going to happen with it. And by the way, Sean, some families have kept control of their cabins. Not many, as I said, but there are some, or the descendants of the original owners who, they still have their cabins, and that's a wonderful thing.
Oh, that's beautiful right there. Yeah. Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, there are some.
Now, I'm reading here on their website, the Winks Panorama, and it's a beautiful picture of that house. It's
the
gorgeous.
Lodge, yes.
Yeah,
Winks Panorama Lodge, yes. That's right.
I love it. And it was 1927, I believe it is, if I'm reading that right. I got to get my bifocals adjusted. Nonetheless, it says it was added to the National Register of Historic Places.
Now, that's the lodge itself. The lodge itself. Yeah, that's the lodge itself, and that might explain why its condition is, it's in such a good condition. But Lincoln Hills, the whole resort, because the resort was more than the lodge, the Winks Panorama Lodge. Lincoln Hills, the resort, I don't believe has it. I could be wrong, but I don't believe it has. The lodge has.
Right.
So, and it's my hope that more of the grounds, in addition to Winks Lodge, would receive some kind of historic designation. There in the 1920s, black children were discriminated against just like their parents.
Right.
So you had the YWCA, the Phyllis Wheatley YWCA in Denver. They established Camp Nizoni for Girl Scouts, for African American Girl Scouts. And so these girls, they went to camp. They were able to go to Girl Scout camp at Camp Nizoni for years and years and years. That's just so very important. And I really am hoping that there might be some kind of historic designation and restoration of larger parts of Lincoln Hill.
We would hope so, because I'm reading now that, as part of African American History Month, an ongoing debate continues whether Lincoln Hill should exist or not. Really, what is there to debate?
What do you mean, whether it should exist?
Yes,
I don't know.
In the meantime, this is just
I don't know what you're reading.
I'm sorry. I'm on the Lincoln Hills website, and I just clicked onto their homepage.
Okay.
And it's